Okay, Year 6, well welcome to video 2 now of this maze build. We have got the little dog called Dot, and we've created the background like we did in the last video. Okay, so now we're going to think about some of the code that's going to make this work. So the first thing we're going to create is the setup code. So we're going to set everything up ready for this game to start. So we call this the initialization or the setup. And we're going to use the green flag as our setup code. We'll zoom in here so we can see the code that we're going to build. We're going to use our green flag to start our setup. Okay, and we're going to keep it simple. We're going to make sure that we're on level 1. So whenever we start the game, we're going to make sure that we're on level 1. Switch to backdrop, and we're going to make sure it's on backdrop number 1. Now this is where it's important to name your backdrops. So we'll go into our backdrops here and we'll call this level 1. And if you when you created this level like we did in the previous video, if you label it first and then duplicate it, it will automatically change that number. It will leave level and it will change that number to level 2. So it will do it for you automatically. Okay, so that's fine. Go back to our code here. So that's hopefully going to change the code on Dot, so it now says level 1. Perfect. Yeah, so it now says level 1. And then because we want, we've set the start point. Okay, so this is our start point. We've put the dog there, put Dot there, and it's given us the X and the Y coordinates of its location. We're going to set that as a go-to point. So we're going to say go to this location. Okay, and just in case the character is rotated, just in case the character is rotated, we're going to set the direction so that the character is pointing in direction 90, so it's pointing in the right direction. So that bit of code there is our setup code, and it happens whenever the green flag is clicked. So if I drag the dog down here and I click on the green code, click on the green flag, it runs that code and sets up that first part of the, sets up the level ready to play. So it sets it up ready. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the character forever move. So we're making it forever move, and this is where we talked about procedures, because that is a procedure, something that will always happen, and it's something that we can put into a procedure. So in Scratch we use procedures, we use my blocks to make procedures, and we're going to make a block, and it's just going to be, well, we could do it dot move, dot move, because we're making dot move. We're going to click OK for that. You could call it move, do move is what I called it in the other game that I made. The label here is so that you understand what this bit of code that you're defining in this procedure is doing. So do move. Okay, and the motion is always going to be, so we're going to get the dot to move. I just make it one step, and you remember that the speed of this is the number you type in there changes the speed of how far the character moves. Okay, and really now what we want to do now is we wanted it to move forever, so we're going to get a forever block and put that into the main code. So this is our main code here, and this is now one of our procedures, and we're going to call up this procedure, this dot move procedure. We're going to call it up, and we're going to ask it to do it, and we're going to pick up this call block here. We're just going to call the procedure up, and this call block is going to tell it, forever do what's in this procedure. So when I click the green flag, then the dog begins to move, and it will do it forever. Okay, so that's how we get the character moving so far. Now the other thing we need to do is obviously we need to be able to control Dot in some way. And in the Go-Bo Maze game we control Dot with the arrow keys on the keyboard. Now you can come up with different ways of controlling it, but we'll go through that process so that it sort of gets you used to building the code for that. So again, this is another procedure, which you could incorporate this into this .move procedure, so everything is in this one procedure, or you could separate it out into another procedure. And there is an argument whether you do that or you don't. It's up to you. I'm going to create it as a new procedure, but you can create it you can add it into this one. So if I make a block now, and the block name is we could call it .controls. .control. It doesn't really matter, but it's important that the names are consistent, so that you know what they do when you're building your procedures. And so in this instance, this is where we're going to use an if. Now, I'm teaching year 6 about ifs at the moment. We'll just quickly talk about ifs. So the way the if block works is this. So if whatever you put in this diamond shape here, okay, if the condition, we call that the condition, so whatever goes in there is called the condition, okay, if that condition is true, then it's going to run or do whatever you put in this middle block here. Yeah, so if whatever you put in here is true, then it's going to do the what's inside the block. Yeah, so that's our first selection, really. These types of blocks are called selection because it can do the thing in there, or it can go past it. Yeah, so it can either do one thing or nothing, or one thing or the other. Yeah, okay, so that's how that block works. And we need 2 of them because we're going to have more than one key being pressed on the keyboard. Okay, so if we only had one key being pressed on the keyboard, we'd only have one of these, because that condition is either true, the key is pressed, or false, the key is not pressed, or yes, the key is pressed, or no, the key isn't pressed. Okay, but we're going to have 2 of these, and they're going to be sensing the keys on the keyboard. Yeah, so I'm going to pick up these sensing blocks which tell us what keys, and I'm going to make them so they're left and right. Yeah, so left and right arrow. So now we've done the left and right arrow. Now if we run that code, nothing would happen, because although this condition would be true, we haven't told it what to do if the condition is true. Yeah, so the selection isn't finished. Okay, and that's the other thing as well. If you don't press that key, it checks to see if this right key is being pressed. Okay, and because we're going to put this code into a loop, it's going to go round these, checking these all of the time. Okay, so if I press my left arrow key, I'm going to make my character turn left, and if I press my right arrow key, I'm going to make my dot turn right. I'm going to make dot turn left and turn right. And so that's our procedure for getting dot to move left and right. So so I'm going to add that to my main code. Remember, this part is my main code, and these are my procedures. Okay, these are procedures. We sometimes call these abstraction. They're abstracted code. Okay, they're the procedure code. So we know it's called dot control because that's the name I gave it, and we're going to put it in there. And now when we tap on the arrow keys, dot will move. As you can see, dot's going through the walls, which is something that is happening at the moment. But we're going to stop this video here, and in part 3 I'm going to go through how to make dot so that if it touches the walls, something happens. Okay, or it goes back to the start, really. Okay, I hope that's useful.